The night is literally screaming bad omen, as heavy rain lashes down on the luxury estate where the elite are gathered for a high-stakes party. Zhang Xuning stands in the shadows, shivering in a dress that's definitely not warm enough, feeling like a total outsider at an event she was forced to attend. Internally, she's already done, thinking if I didn't show up, my adoptive parents would probably have a literal meltdown. But the real drama starts when guests notice she's draped in a massive man's coat, immediately sparking rumors that she's out here playing games behind her fiancé's back. Suddenly, her adoptive father, Ziking, storms out looking like he's about to blow a fuse, screaming at her for being late and mocking her independent job as low-class trash. This is peak toxicity because Xuning was only adopted at age 4 to be a replacement for their missing biological daughter. And they've spent every year since making her feel like a budget version of a human being. Now that the real daughter, Mingyu, has returned, Xuning has been demoted from spare child to total nuisance. She can feel the suffocating pressure of being the family's emotional punching bag. Her adoptive mother, Liu Hian, joins the roast, guilt-tripping Xuning for making her precious sister wait. Before Xuning can even explain, her dad aggressively rips the coat off her shoulders. He pauses when he realizes the fabric is high-end luxury, but his brain immediately jumps to the worst conclusion. He starts pointing fingers, accusing her of flirting with other men and being a suspicious embarrassment to her fiancé, Zhou Baiyu. He's not even worried about her. He's just terrified the Zhao family will use her infidelity as leverage to tank their business deal. Xuning watches them, her heart turning to stone as she realizes all the years she spent sacrificing for this family were a total waste of time. Her mother wears this sly, villainous smirk that says everything you need to know. Liu Huyan then drops the ultimate bombshell. She wants Xuning to take the fall and break off her own engagement, so that Mingyu can marry the rich fiancé instead. She plays the poor Mingyu suffered so much card, trying to manipulate Xuning into giving up her entire future. Dad jumps right in, basically telling her she owes it to them to fulfill her sister's wish since she has other admirers anyway. Xuning is blindsided by the sheer audacity, realized she's being sold out by the people who raised her. When she tries to push back, her dad goes full tyrant, threatening to strip away everything she has since they gave it to her. Mom is only worried that the guests might see them bullying her, so she quickly switches to her fake nice persona. She tries to gaslight Xuning, calling her a sensible child who knows her place. Xuning has officially reached her limit and decides to step out before she loses it. But the night gets even trashier when she turns a corner and catches her fiancé Baiyu in a full-on romantic clinch with sister Mingyu. They're literally locking lips in the middle of the garden like they're in a soap opera. Xuning is stunned, realizing the red flags were there all along, and she was just too loyal to see the infidelity. Mingyu looks back with a smug expression that screams, "I won." But the second they're caught, Mingyu flips the script, acting like a helpless victim while Xuning stands there in disbelief. Xuning calls them out immediately, but the audacity of these two is off the charts. Baiyu has the nerve to claim they were just talking, and that Mingyu was thanking him. Xuning scoffed internally. Oh sure, because everyone knows thank you is spelled with mouth-to-mouth contact. Baiyu actually tries to command her to trust him, because they're engaged, which is just straight-up delusional. At this point, Xuning decides her reputation is a small price to pay to get away from this circus. She looks him dead in the eye and cancels the engagement right then and there. Mingyu puts on a hypocritical performance, pretending to be sad while her eyes are literally dancing with joy. The parents rush over, and Mingyu immediately lies, saying Xuning misunderstood, a kind gesture. Xuning doesn't even argue, she just announces she's leaving this mess behind. But Baiyu isn't done being a villain. He grabs her injured hand with enough force to make her wince. He starts ranting about his reputation, while her mom joins in, slandering Xuning by bringing up the mysterious man's coat again to make her look like the cheater. Baiyu falls for it instantly, calling Xuning the real betrayer. Xuning is absolutely repulsed by the people she used to call family. She snaps at them to stay away, but the drama escalates when Mingyu tries to apologize, and then fakes a dramatic fall the second Xuning dodges her. Her parents go nuclear, screaming at Xuning to apologize to their precious, biological daughter and calling her an ungrateful wretch. Xuning stands her ground, her gaze turning icy as she realizes she will never forgive any of them. Just as her dad is about to get physical, a new player enters the chat. He Wenli, the legendary president of the He Group, and basically the most powerful man in the capital. He steps into the light, roasting the father for having zero manners. The entire atmosphere shifts as this absolute unit of a CEO walks toward them. He looks the family dead in the eye and confirms that the luxury coat belongs to him. The silence is deafening as the father realizes he just insulted the man who could end his career with a phone call. Mingyu is in total disbelief, wondering how Xuning pulled a high-tier man like this. He Wenli explains he lent Xuning the coat as an apology for his car splashing her, effectively shooting down the cheating rumors. He gives Baiyu a look that could melt steel, making the fiancé look like a total clown. Xuning is confused, wondering why this powerful stranger is putting his neck out for her. Her dad tries to pivot into suck-up mode, apologizing profusely for the trouble. He even tries to introduce Mingyu, hoping to trade one daughter for the other in the CEO's eyes. He tries to claim the two sisters look exactly alike, but He Wenli isn't buying the sales pitch. He stares them down with pure coldness. Then He Wenli drops a tactical nuke, asking why Mingyu is thanking someone else's fiancé with a kiss. Xuning feels a wave of relief. For once, she's not fighting this battle alone. The crowd starts whispering, and the perfect sister's reputation starts crumbling in 4K. People start calling out Baiyu for being a scumbag and the parents for being toxic. Zhaoqing is literally trembling with rage as his social standing evaporates. In a desperate move to save face, he tries to drag Xuning away, but he grabs her injured hand again, causing her to collapse in pain. He Wenli catches her instantly, his expression softening as he realizes she's actually hurt. He sweeps her up in a bridal carry, looking like a literal knight in a three-piece suit. He tells the father to step off, making it clear Xuning is under his protection now. He ignores the family's protests and carries her straight to his car. Inside the car, he asks her if her family always treats her like garbage. Xuning admits she's just the unnecessary adopted daughter. And then he Wenli drops the most main character line ever. How about marrying me instead? Xuning is so stunned her brain practically short-circuits. She's in too much pain to process the proposal properly. He Wenli doesn't wait for an answer, ordering his driver to haul it to the hospital immediately. Xuning wakes up in a high-end hospital room, hearing He Wenli's voice telling the staff to be gentle. She thinks she's still dreaming because there's no way a man that powerful could be that soft. The nurse informs her that her fever is down and that she fainted from exhaustion. Then the nurse mentions her husband's meticulous care, and Xuning realized the marriage proposal wasn't a fever dream after all. She's officially shook. The nurse adds that the legendary Dr. Lu Peiyan is coming to check her hand, a doctor who is normally impossible to book. Xuning knows this is all He Wenli's do. She looks at her hand, remembering her adoptive parents used her injury as an excuse to marry her off to a loser. Suddenly, her phone starts blowing up with a call from her dad, who starts screaming at her for staying out all night. He demands she get home immediately, proving he hasn't changed a bit. Xuning looks at the phone and realizes that a stranger treated her better in one night than her family did in 10 years. Back at the mansion, the father is throwing a tantrum because the Zhao family now wants Xuning back specifically to get closer to He Wenli. Xuning walks in, looking like she's ready to burn the whole house down. Her dad starts lecturing her about her attitude, but she's not playing his games anymore. Her mom tries to interrogate her about how close she is with the CEO. She's fishing for info, looking totally suspicious. Xuning keeps it cool, claiming they have nothing to do with each other. Her dad doesn't believe it for a second, demanding to know how a man like that would remember her after one meeting. Internally, Xuning just sighs at their logic. She's done being the lucky brat in their eyes. Her gaze turns sharp, her blue eyes icy with resolve. Her dad tries to order her to marry Baiyu again because the Zhaos are thrilled to have her back. Xuning just looks at him and calmly states she's breaking the engagement for good. The parents are stunned into silence. Xuning is officially done being their puppet, and she's ready to start her new life possibly as a CEO's wife. Dinner with the boys gets interrupted when Master Ju's phone starts buzzing on the table. He keeps it professional, excusing himself from the meal while his associates practically bow him out of the room. As soon as the boss is gone, the group lets out a massive collective sigh of relief. The gossip train starts immediately, with the guys whispering about how the Rong family matriarch is out here hunting for a daughter-in-law and has already prepared a massive candidate list. His childhood friend, Su Yiting, bets that once the cold Master Ju finally catches feelings and gets married, he's going to undergo a complete personality 80 and become the ultimate simp. Right on cue, the man himself walks back in, catching the tail end of the roast and telling them he'll take their word for it. Later that night, a luxury van rolls past the university gates. Dr. Rong spots a familiar face standing at the bus stop and realizes it's his patient, Antong. He stares for a second, probably wondering why she's out so late in the middle of nowhere. Checking his expensive watch, he notes that the buses have definitely stopped running and decides to play the hero. The van pulls up right in front of the confused girl. He rolls down the window and offers her a lift, and she admits she was just waiting for a bus that was never coming. She looks a bit hesitant, standing there alone under the dim station lights. She hops into the business car with zero struggle, even knowing exactly how to operate the high-end electronic door. Internally, Dr. Rong raised an eyebrow, thinking, for someone who looks penniless, she sure knows her way around a luxury interior. Interesting. As they drive, he asks if she's taking night classes, but she reveals she's actually just auditing courses. He pivots to her mental health, asking if she's had any more emotional detachment episodes, and notices she's clutching a book titled The Algorithm Empire. He gives her a long, hard look, trying to read between the lines of her quiet personality. The van eventually hits a dead end in a narrow, sketchy-looking alleyway. Antong thanks him and says she'll just walk the rest of the way. Instead of letting her go, Dr. Rong just stares at her with that "I'm not letting you get mugged on my watch" face. The driver is absolutely blindsided when his boss prepares to jump out of the car. He asks where she lives, but she insists she's fine on her own since it's close. She tries to wave him off, but he's not taking no for an answer. He decides to escort her personally, leaving his driver looking like a total third wheel in his own vehicle. The driver is internally screaming because Master Ju never does this for anyone, making Antong officially remarkable in his eyes. The two walk in awkward silence through the dark, quiet streets. He starts digging for info, asking if she has anyone waiting for her at home. She tries to avoid the eye contact, but he hits her with some therapist logic, telling her that facing reality is way more effective than running away. Eventually, she drops the bombshell that she lies completely alone. When she asks if this interrogation is part of her treatment approach, he just plays it off as getting a deeper understanding of his patients. She finally relaxes a bit as they reach her destination. They arrive at a tiny, humble house that looks like it's seen better days. She gives him a soft goodnight, leaving Dr. Rong standing there in the rustling night air. Back at the Yundian villa, the atmosphere is way more intense. His grandmother, the old madam, is waiting for him like a final boss in the living room. She starts the usual "you're getting old" lecture. But before she can even finish her sentence, Dr. Rong drops a nuke. She's absolutely stunned, asking him to repeat himself because she can't believe her ears. He looks her dead in the eye and calmly agrees to go on the blind date she's been pushing. Later, he's casually lighting a cigarette, looking like a total menace on the stairs. He calls his assistant, Uncle Lee, to check on the tasks he assigned earlier. It turns out he's rigged the game. He had Antong's name added to the list of potential blind date candidates. He tells Lee to make sure the old madam gets the updated list first thing in the morning. The next day, Antong shows up for her relaxation therapy session, looking a bit confused in her oversized hoodie. Dr. Rong is already there, dismissing his friends so they can have some privacy. He invites her to take a seat in the peaceful courtyard. His friend Su Yiting spots them from a distance and loses his mind, thinking Antong looks like a high society socialite. He's dying to know why this mystery girl is calling the cold CEO Dr. Rong. The assistant tries to play it cool, giving the classic "less talk, less trouble" vibe to avoid getting fired. Su Yiting isn't buying it and starts snapping photos, convinced the old monk is finally breaking his vow of abstinence. Dr. Rong tells Antong to ignore the bystanders, while the assistant drags the gossip-hungry friend away. Antong just lets out a massive phew, glad the weird social pressure is over. They sit down for tea, and he asks what she does besides auditing classes. She mentions her part-time jobs, and he asks she's so obsessed with learning programming. Her answer is pretty dark. She thinks code can have more warmth than real people. He finds that way too pessimistic and sets his tea down. He stands up and tells her she needs to get out more and find pleasures beyond a computer screen. She admits that if she gets the chance, she'll try, but notes that everyone has his level of patience. He stops in his tracks, repeating the word patience like it's a foreign concept. He goes quiet for a second, looking deep in thought. Then he invites her inside where it's cooler. Antong stands up, worried she accidentally offended him. Internally, she panicked. Did I say something wrong? Why does he look like he's not in agreement? Inside, he offers her his entire study next door to check out some books. When she asks if she needs to pay extra for the full-day experience, he pauses. He tells her it's a complimentary bonus, and she scurries off to find a book. Internally, she felt like a total clown for bringing up money with someone as polite as him. As the clock ticks away, Dr. Rong keeps an eye on the time. He finds her in the library, completely zoned out and unresponsive. Her emotional detachment disorder is flaring up again. He notices the book she's holding was translated by someone named Xianghua. He gently pats her shoulder, telling her that no matter what happened, she needs to shed her baggage. She snaps back to reality, apologizing for the sudden lapse. She asks to borrow the book to read for a few days, and he agrees immediately. She reveals that the translator Xianghua was actually her father. He tells her she can come back and borrow anything she wants anytime. He warns her not to get too immersed in the pages, while she caresses the book like it's a piece of her past. Our girl is living a secret double life that would make Batman jealous. Shuning is on the phone with her best friend, Sujai, planning an early morning airport pickup. Wenli is immediately on high alert, asking why she has business at the airport so early. He tries to play it cool, saying it's good to socialize more, but he's low-key suspicious. Internally, he's scanning his mental blind date list, thinking that if this friend is a guy, some things are better left uninvestigated. Shuning quickly clears the air, explaining that aside from him, Suji is her only true bestie who stayed by her side during her darkest episodes. Wenli takes a breath, realizing he's probably just being a jealous overthinker. The next morning, the flight from Paris finally touches down at the airport. Shuning waits near the railing, watching influencers get caught in 4K by their own camera crews while showing off for the gram. Suji, a high-flying talent manager, struts through the terminal with her team, wondering why their chauffeur hasn't shown up yet. She spots someone staring at her from the crowd and stops her luggage in its tracks. The two besties finally reunite, and Shuning admits she didn't want to interrupt Suji's boss mode while she was busy with work. Sujay immediately drops the professional act and insists on driving Shuning home herself. They head straight back to Suji's apartment on Shannon Road. Shuning finally gets a moment to relax in a comfortable environment, browsing through a book while Suji watches her closely. Suji notices that Shuning looks way more cheerful than before, and Shuning credits her progress to her new psychological counseling. Suji is visibly relieved that her concerns weren't in vain and gives her bestie a playful poke. When Shuning describes Dr. Rong as a total gentleman, Suji isn't buying it, warning her that guys in white coats are usually just fake gentlemen with ulterior motives. Shuning immediately jumps to his defense, causing Sujai to get nervous that another episode might be triggered. Shuning is convinced he's the real deal, while Suji makes a mental note to meet this mysterious doctor and see if he's actually legit. Suji goes into full big sister mode, making sure Shuning is eating well and staying busy so she doesn't have time to overthink her trauma. Before heading out for a photo shoot, Suji hands over her car keys but gives Shuning a strict warning to stay away from extreme sports. Shuning watches her friend leave, staring at the keys with a look that says she's definitely going to ignore that advice. Internally, she's already planning her escape to the wingsuit flying competition at Sixiao Canyon. The mountainous canyon area is a paradise for daredevils, but it's also incredibly dangerous. Coincidentally, Wenli is also in the area, ordering his staff to ensure his grandmother is well cared for and to avoid the competition traffic. Suddenly, his assistant is blindsided when he spots a driver in the car next to them who looks exactly like Shuning. It's her alright, looking like a total baddie with a hat and a lollipop, completely in her element. He Wenli doesn't hesitate. He orders the driver to pull a U-turn and follow her immediately. Shuning parks her SUV and gets ready, unaware she's being tailed by her own doctor. The crowd is buzzing because Antong, Shuning's secret alias and a legendary seated player, has arrived to dominate the competition. People are whispering about her narrow escape from a fatal accident earlier this year and her forced 3-month break. He Wenli's assistant is shocked to hear how famous Antong is in the extreme sports circle. He Wenli listens in silence, his face a mask of concern as he watches her from the shadows. Rumor has it she's a reckless thrill seeker who plays with her life just to get famous. The assistant notes that for someone so famous, she really knows how to keep a low profile. He Wenli realizes she isn't doing this for the adrenaline. She's likely penniless and values the prize money more than her own safety. He sends her a quick text to check in, and she replies saying she's feeling great with no symptoms. When he asks if she's busy with part-time work, she sends a quick confirmation, which is technically the truth, even if that work involves jumping off cliffs. The competition begins, and Shuning leaps into the abyss, soaring through the canyon like a pro, before deploying her parachute. She glides perfectly over the stadium as the crowd goes wild for her performance. As she lands and starts packing her gear, she hears a familiar voice that makes her heart skip a beat. She pulls off her goggles and finds Dr. Rong standing right there, waiting for her. He Wenli steps forward, offering to help her with her heavy equipment. Shuning is completely blindsided, asking if he's secretly a fan of wingsuiting too. He plays it off as a casual weekend trip, but then drops the hammer, asking if this dangerous hobby is her secret part-time job. Shuning shrugs it off, calling it easy money, while she packs up. The assistant is internally screaming that this isn't easy money, it's literally risking her life for a paycheck. Shuning has to head back for another round, and He Wenli tells her to be careful with a look that could melt ice. She waves goodbye, still a bit stunned by the encounter. The assistant points out that the first prize is only 50K, which is pocket change considering the risk. He suggests He Wenli should sponsor the event to increase the reward, but He Wenli knows better. Increasing the money will just make her more determined to risk it all. He realizes she won't stop until she has something more precious in her heart than a bank account balance. Back at Suji's house that night, Shuning tosses her new medals into a box full of other trophies. She's a bit salty that Dr. Rong didn't stick around for the rest of the matches. She can't stop thinking about him, her mind completely unfocused. Internally, she justifies it, thinking it's only normal to update her doctor on the competition results. She tries to focus on her book, but her brain is short-circuiting from anticipation as she waits for her phone to buzz. When the notification finally hits, she almost jumps out of her skin. She tells him she snagged second place, and he tells her to rest well and show up at the health center tomorrow. Shuning feels a bit better knowing they'll meet again, but then she hears a strange whimpering outside. She opens the door and finds a tiny, sad puppy staring up at her, looking absolutely heartbroken. Shuning stares at a random fluff ball that just spawned at her doorstep, wondering if she's being pranked. The little intruder doesn't care about personal space and immediately charges at her feet like it's found its long-lost owner. It starts rubbing against her legs, triggering a core memory of her younger brother's allergic asthma and the strict no-pet policy of her past. Internally, she's hit with a wave of trauma because she spent her entire childhood avoiding animals to keep her brother from short-circuiting. Now she's stuck in a major dilemma: keep this barking cloud or leave it out in the cold. Fast forward to the next day, and Shuning is looking absolutely cooked during her meeting with the CEO-turned-doctor, He Wenli. She's so tired she forgot to even tie her hair, prompting Dr. Rong to ask if she's finally considering getting a pet. He claims a companion animal would be great for her emotional health, while she whispers about the dog that hijacked her sleep schedule the night before. He offers to check out the stray after his meeting, telling her to catch some Z's in the rest area while he handles business. Shuning accidentally oversleeps until noon, waking up like she just missed a final exam. She rushes out to apologize for the delay, thinking she's left the busy doctor waiting forever. But Dr. Rong is the king of chill, telling her the timing is actually perfect to go see the puppy. They head back to her place, but a quick flashback reveals the truth. This wasn't a random stray at all. He Wenli actually ordered his assistant to secretly deliver a purebred Seth-class Tibetan Mastiff worth 200,000 bucks, just to give Shuning a reason to stay safe. Back at the house, the puppy is living its best life, running around and being peak levels of happy. While Dr. Rong plays it cool and squats down to pet the dog, his assistant stands outside wondering why he's the only one left in the cold. The group heads inside, and the assistant is low-key surprised that Shuning's place is actually spacious compared to the shabby exterior. Shuning tries to handle the pup, but it starts barking like crazy, making her worry she's already failing as a pet parent. Dr. Rong sips his tea and casually suggests taking it to a shelter if it's too much of a hassle, which leaves the assistant completely blindsided. He's masterfully gaslighting her into thinking this 200K dog is just a valueless mutt with no owner. Shuning starts feeling bad for the pitiful creature, while the assistant internally screams for her to just adopt the expensive fluff ball. She's worried she won't treat it well, but Dr. Rong just watches her struggle with a straight face. The dog licks her finger, and despite the constant barking, it's starting to win her over. Dr. Rong hits her with a smooth smile and tells her to just give the dog to him for a second. Xuning is frozen like a statue, thinking that holding this dog is basically the same as hugging a vibrating brick. He takes the pup from her hands, asking if she has any tissues to clean it up. He gently wipes the dirt off the dog, making the whole process look like a professional tutorial. Then he shows her exactly how to cradle it, basically setting the mood for How to Be a Family 101 class. Xuning takes the dog back, looking a little stunned by how easy he made it look. She realizes the dog has finally stopped barking and feels a weird sense of empathy, like they're both just trying to find a home. She asks him if he really thinks she should be the one to adopt it. He tells her that having something waiting for her at home will change her perspective on life, which hits her right in the feels. She officially gives in and names the little guy An, much to the pup's delight. As they wrap things up outside, Xuning tries to pay the treatment fee in cash, but Dr. Rong tells her to keep her money. Looking at him, she thinks he's the most thoughtful doctor ever, completely unaware he's the CEO who staged the whole thing. Now she's stuck with a high-energy roommate that won't stop yapping. On Thursday, she sneaks the dog into a parking lot inside her hoodie, telling An to be a good boy. But she's immediately caught in 4K by her manager Suji, who's waiting by the car with her arms crossed. Suji goes full detective mode, asking why there's mud on the tires and where Xuning has been disappearing to. Xuning tries to play it cool while hopping into the car, but Suji isn't buying the "I can manage on my own" act. Suddenly, the secret is out as An pokes his head out of her hoodie and starts barking. Suji's jaw drops, demanding to know what kind of illegal fluff she's smuggling under her clothes. Xuning pulls out the dog and introduces him as an An, trying to use the cute defense. Suji is instantly salty, pointing out that she suggested a pet ages ago and Xuning ignored her. When Xuning admits she only listened because Dr. Rong suggested it, Suji gets hit with a massive wave of jealousy. Xuning tries to explain that the dog just showed up at her yard, still buying the stray story. Suji scoffs, wondering if the dog just has a weird preference for running into shabby yards. Seeing Xuning so focused and happy with the pup, Suji realizes her friend is actually changing. As they drive off, she thinks that maybe this mysterious doctor actually has some magic touch after all. Xuning arrives at the Saint's Altar specialized store to meet with Uncle Su. As she starts selecting ritual items, the shopkeeper watches her every move while puffing on his pipe. Uncle Exu starts yapping about her missing father and how his old colleagues are still asking about her, which immediately ruins the vibe. Xuning is instantly blindsided by the mention of her past, her expression going completely blank. Her manager, Suji, notices her freezing up and realizes the old man just accidentally triggered a major trauma episode. She tries to block the smoke and thinks fast, knowing she needs to snap Xuning out of this mental spiral before she short-circuits. Suji grabs the hidden puppy and shoves it into Xuning's line of sight, asking if the little guy is hungry. The puppy starts barking and struggling, doing its best to be the center of attention. The sudden noise finally catches Xuning's eyes. She blinks back to reality, looking totally confused by the chaos in her arms. Xuning stares at the floating, four-legged distraction while the manager keeps the act going. Xuning carefully holds the dog, worried it's uncomfortable, while Suji internally scoffs. Girl, you can't even take care of yourself, but you're worried about a dog's comfort? Internally, Xuning is shocked that she broke out of her episode so quickly, crediting the therapy and her new companion for the win. They wave goodbye to Uncle Xu and head out. As soon as the coast is clear, Uncle Xu sends a suspicious text to second brother, warning him that Xuning doesn't know where her dad is and to stop pushing her so hard. Later, the girls head to the Sugio cemetery to pay their respects. We get a tragic flashback to 3 years ago, where a brutal car accident left Xuning's mother and her little brother, Ki, dead in the street. Her brother's final words were a heart-wrenching request to just go home before the scene fades back to the rainy present. Xuning takes a deep breath and promises her family that she'll live a good life. The moment is so heavy that even Suji is caught in 4K wiping away tears. Meanwhile, a black car is idling near a bungalow on Yunhai Road. Inside, the old madam of the Rong family is watching Xuning, asking her assistant if this is the girl her son is obsessed with. She picks up a file, annoyed that a key couldn't find any solid info on Xuning's parents. She finds it impossible that there's someone the powerful Rong family can't dig up dirt on. A key suggests that Xuning has a much deeper background than she lets on, while the madam thinks about how her son always says there are skies beyond skies. Looking at Xuning, the madam thinks she looks pretty mid and unremarkable. She decides that anyone who caught her son's eye must be hiding some serious skills and orders the car to leave. The car pulls up to the Zuntang Club to pick up He Wenli. His mom immediately grills him about Xuning's background. He Wenli keeps his poker face, claiming he's just as in the dark as she is. When she asks if he's telling the truth, he hits her with the "When have I ever lied to you?" line, which is a total lie. The madam wonders if the girl really is extraordinary. She tells him to pick a day and bring her home so she can vet her personally. He Wenli stares out the window, promising to bring her home when the time is right. To top it off, the madam plans to call a girl named Xiaowan to keep her company, clearly trying to set up a marriage backup plan. On Monday, Shuning meets Dr. Rong at the library for their session. She greets him politely, still unaware of his true identity. He tells her he has some documents to handle and suggests she look through the shelves. Shuning wanders around, thinking about how he chose this specific spot for therapy. She ends up grabbing Extreme Sports album, which makes Hee-Wenli raise an eyebrow. He asks what other sport she likes, and she casually lists off bungee jumping and paragliding like it's no big deal. He asks if she's ever afraid of the death flags associated with extreme sports. Shuning admits that in the past, an accident would have been a form of liberation, but then she stops herself. She looks up and tells him she doesn't think like that anymore because meeting him was her stroke of good luck. To keep the mood light, he pushes a slice of chocolate cake toward her. Shuning starts feeling guilty about him always paying the bill. She stands up, claiming she needs to find another book. Her secret mission: sneak downstairs and pay for everything before he notices. She returns to the table, letting out a sigh of relief. Hee-Wenli asks if she found the book she wanted. Internally, Shuning panics because she totally forgot to actually swap the book. She frantically pulls out a random book from the shelf, claiming it's exactly what she wanted to read. Hee-Wenli stares at her in dead silence. He asks if she's absolutely sure that this is the book she wanted. Shuning is confused by his reaction. She looks down and realizes she's holding an encyclopedia of pregnancy knowledge. She turns bright red, dying of embarrassment as the waiter brings more coffee. Hee-Wenli smirks, asking if she went downstairs just to order coffee. He finally catches her in 4K, asking if she also settled the bill while she was down there. The ICCEO Wenli is finally showing a soft side, catching Shuning in a deep embrace that leaves his brother absolutely blindsided. Even the tough guy guards are watching this play out like a scene from a romantic K-drama. Shuning feels safe for once, thinking this guy is a literal saint. He picks her up like she's a princess, and she's convinced he's the ultimate good person. Internally, Wenli is smirking because his actual thoughts are definitely not PG rated. Meanwhile, his brother is low-key terrified that Wenli might actually catch a murder charge if anyone messes with his girl. Back at the mansion, Shuning is fresh out of the shower and still blushing over the earlier tension. Wenli walks in and starts drying her hair, acting like the perfect husband. Internally, she's short-circuiting. "We're just in a contract marriage, buddy. You're doing way too much." He notices her face is red and wonders if the hairdryer is too hot for her. Shuning tells him there's no audience here, so he can drop the act. But Wenli hits her with that smoldering look, reminding her that they're still husband and wife regardless of who is watching. She decides to just stop fighting it and enjoy the treatment. The atmosphere gets heavy, and Wenli straight up asks for a kiss. Shuning is caught in 4K, having already mentally prepared herself for this moment. As he leans in, his woody scent is totally overwhelming her senses. They finally lock lips, and it's way more addictive than Wenli ever expected. He basically tells her that as her husband, he's going to do everything from drying hair to stealing kisses. Shuning is left dazed while Wenli heads off to cool down. She's baffled that a powerful CEO is treating a kiss like it's the most ordinary thing in the world. Wenli heads to the shower to wash away the tension. He's fully committed to taking the initiative until Shuning is completely his. He hopes this marriage lasts a lifetime. Later, he surprises her with a rack of designer gowns for an upcoming event. It turns out Shuning is planning to crash Mingyu's birthday banquet to gather evidence against her toxic family. Wenli is all for it, wanting his wife to look like she's ready for war. The Zhang family is hosting a massive birthday bash for their biological daughter, Mingyu. Her dad is busy bragging about how they don't need Shuning anymore and how Mingyu is the real star. The guests are whispering about Shuning's supposed hand injury that kept her from attending. Suddenly, the doors swing open and Shuning walks in looking like a literal goddess in a blue gown. Mingyu is instantly triggered, realizing her spotlight just got hijacked. Even the trashy ex-fiancé Bayu can't take his eyes off the glow-up. Mingyu is fuming, wondering where Shuning got the money for such expensive drip. She tries to play the victim, suggesting Shuning might be someone's mistress. Bayu isn't having it and tells her to stop being disgusting. Mingyu is humiliated in front of everyone and starts plotting her next move. She asks Shuning where she got the dress, bragging that hers is a custom import. Shuning scoffs, "Stop lying, you're literally wearing my old hand-me-downs." She even points out that Mingyu is currently holding onto her discarded ex. Mingyu loses it and charges at her. She tries to accidentally spill wine on Shuning's gown. Shuning is devastated because this was a special gift from Mr. He. Mingyu thinks she's won, calling Shuning a pushover for her to trample. But Shuning isn't the same girl anymore. She sticks out her foot and trips the brat. Mingyu faceplants, drenching herself in wine. Shuning looms over her, telling her she's done being provoked. It's time to expose the family's true colors. Mingyu tries to play the "I'm the victim" card. The parents rush over, demanding to know what's going on. The mother coddles Mingyu while the dad starts screaming at Shuning for being a bad sister. Shuning just watches them act like clowns, feeling absolutely nothing. However, the guests aren't blind. They saw Mingyu splash the wine first and aren't falling for the act. The dad tries to kick Shuning out to save face before the reputation is ruined. Shuning demands that Mingyu pays for the ruined dress first. Mingyu tries to bring up Shuning's younger man from the mall to shift the blame. Even Bayu is annoyed that he's being dragged into this mess. Shuning laughs, knowing nobody believes the frame-up anymore. Mingyu loses her mind, calls Shuning a family dog, and tries to slap her. Shuning catches her hand and delivers a soul-shattering slap of her own. The dad loses it, calling her insane. Shuning just smiles and tells him he's next. Suddenly, a man named Dr. Cheng bursts in, screaming that the dad screwed him over. It turns out this was Shuning's former attendant attending physician. The dad tries to shut him up, but it's too late for damage control. The doctor reveals that the family paid him 200,000 yuan to tell Shuning her hand was beyond saving. Her injury wasn't serious at all. They just wanted to ruin her career so she couldn't escape their control. They wanted her to be a submissive bride for the Zhao family's benefit. The crowd is disgusted, calling the parents vicious for eating their own cubs. The dad tries to deny it, but the doctor mentions the NDA they signed back then. Shuning stands there with a satisfied smirk. She asks them if they're ready to drop the act. The dad realizes Shuning planned this entire takedown. Internally, she's thinking, buckle up, because the real show has only just begun. The banquet is a total dumpster fire as Shuning dies to gaslight her, claiming he raised her out of love while she claps back that she was just a pet they couldn't control. She glares at him, asking if he really thought he could ruin her life without catching his hands eventually. Her mom joins in with the crocodile tears, acting like the ultimate victim. But Shuning isn't buying this hypocritical performance for a second. The guests are absolutely lost, whispering about which side is actually telling the truth. Suddenly, Baiyu jumps into the fray, snitching on the Zhongs and admitting he was their accomplice in ruining Shuning's future. Even his own dad is shocked he's jumping into this muddy water and getting involved in the mess. Internally, Baiyu realizes it's better to ditch the Zhongs now than to catch heat from the powerful man backing Shuning. He offers a public apology, but Shuning sees right through his sudden change of heart, thinking he's just a rat fleeing a sinking ship. She makes it clear she's never forgiving any of these snakes for what they did. The socialites start whispering, realizing President Zhang is a cold-hearted backstabber who shouldn't be trusted in business. Her mom keeps up the loving parent act, but Shuning shuts her down, calling out her fake concern. To prove how little they actually care, Shuning drops a truth bomb. She asks her mom when her birthday is. The silence is deafening, because they never even celebrated it once while she sat alone as a kid. Shuning officially demands to end the adoption, but her dad refuses to let his meal ticket walk away for free. She tells him she'll pay back every cent with interest just to be rid of them forever. Her dad loses his mind, screaming that she's dreaming if she thinks she can just leave the family. Shuning doesn't flinch, threatening to see him in court as she turns to walk away. He tries to charge after her like a maniac, desperate to keep his grip on her future. But before he can touch her, Li Kai steps in and snaps him back to reality by throwing him onto the floor. Shuning realizes her CEO protector might be closer than she thought. Her mom starts shrieking about the nerve of the guard and the consequences of hitting her husband. She really thinks her family name still carries weight in this room. That's when He Wenli makes his grand entrance, looking like a literal god walking through the doors. The room goes silent as the Zhongs realize the big boss has officially arrived to settle the score. Wenli ignores the dad's desperate attempts at a greeting, walking right past him like he's invisible trash. He goes straight to Shuning, asking if she's alright in his softest voice. When she points out her ruined dress, Wenli's eyes turn cold enough to freeze hell. He gives the girl responsible a look that says, "You're dead," promising his lawyers will be in touch with a massive bill for the dress. The mom realizes the dress was a gift from Wenli and starts short-circuiting over their secret relationship. The dad is just as shook, wondering how Shuning bagged a guy this powerful. He tries to play it off as a misunderstanding, but Wenli isn't hearing any of it. He calls them out for bullying his girl, making it clear their crimes are set in stone. The dad realizes Shuning has the ultimate backup now, and his leverage is gone. Wenli promises to hire the best legal team for her, reminding everyone that not everyone is fit to be a parent. He literally carries her out of the party, picking up the train of her dress like a devoted husband. Shuning is dazed, realizing he's showing everyone she's the one person nobody is allowed to bully. Wenli makes it clear he doesn't care about face, only about being good to his wife. Meanwhile, old master, he is getting a frantic call in the middle of the night about his grandson's sudden marriage. He's confused until he hears it's He Wenli who caused the massive scene. Back at the villa, Wenli carries a sleeping Shuning inside, looking like a total hero. When his brother tries to gossip about the beauty and the hero scene, Wenli tells him to shut it so she can sleep. He's being super overprotective, much to his brother's annoyance. The brother has to explain to Grandpa on the phone that Wenli is busy with his sister-in-law right now. Wenli watches her sleep, admiring how hard she fought for herself all night. He can't help but touch her face, noticing she's still frowning even in her dreams. Things start heating up as he realizes his self-control is slipping while she presses against him. Shuning clings to him in her sleep, making it impossible for him to stay a gentleman. He's officially down bad as he leans in close to her face. The two share an intense, steamy moment that confirms their contract is definitely becoming real. He stares at her with pure longing as the tension peaks. He's struggling to keep his cool after that encounter. Suddenly, his phone starts buzzing, killing the mood instantly. He decides to give her the respect she deserves and take things step by step. He sees a text from his brother about setting up a date and decides it's time for some actual romance. He watches her sleep, thinking a date is exactly what they need to move forward. The next morning, Shuning starts to wake up. Her eyes flutter open, looking refreshed. She finds Wenli right there, looking like a snack in his robe. He's actually massaging her hand to help with her old injury. He explains he was worried about the rain causing her pain and consulted the family doctor. Shuning is touched, wondering why her lips feel a little swollen and sore. He officially asks her out on a date and she's totally game. They head to a fancy restaurant, though it turns out the brother picked a super mushy couple's spot. Wenli steps away for a work call, leaving Shuning alone for a moment. moment. That's when some random creep named Feng Riyang approaches her, claiming they met before. Xuning doesn't remember him and thinks he's disgusting for trying to hit on her. The guy is a total loser, asking her how much she charges for a night. He thinks every woman has a price and that she'll eventually crawl to him for money. He's smirking like a villain, thinking he's a catch because he has a car and a house. He claims Wenli doesn't actually want her, but he's willing to take her in. He offers to get a marriage certificate right now so she's not just a mistress. Xuning realizes talking to this clown is a total waste of her time. When she tries to walk away, he gets aggressive, insulting her for acting high and mighty. He demands she stop acting like no normal man would ever marry her. He has the audacity to grab her shoulder, and Xuning is visibly shaken by his creepiness. Just as the creepy Feng Riyang tries to corner Xuning, a familiar pair of strong arms pulls her into a protective embrace, catching her completely off guard. Xuning's heart skips a beat as she realizes it's Wenli, his signature sandalwood scent instantly calming her panicked nerves. Before the thug can even process what's happening, Wenli's bodyguard swoops in and pins the loudmouth to the floor like he's taking out the trash. Wenli doesn't even spare the guy a second glance as he guides Xuning away, calmly asking where the rest of the trouble is hiding. Internally, Xuning is a bit worried, wondering if her CEO husband can actually handle a street thug or if he's just flexing. Back at the table, little Yi is practically dying of laughter after hearing Xuning call his brother a gentleman, knowing full well that Wenli is anything but soft when he's provoked. While Xuning waits, Wenli heads to a private room to have a little chat, with Riyang greeting the creep with a swift kick that sends him flying. The thug ends up eating dirt, realizing too late that he messed with the wrong high-tier player. When the coward tries to threaten them with the police, Wenli just smirks, leaning in close with a terrifyingly calm expression that says he'd love to see him try. Wenli reveals he's already done his homework, mentioning the creep's illegal partying habits and making it clear his life is over if he doesn't start behaving. He delivers a final chilling order: from now on, whenever the thug sees Xuning, he better take a massive detour. After a condescending pat on the cheek, Wenli warns him that if he opens his mouth about this, even the Zhang family won't be able to save his skin. Wenli returns to Xuning, but he doesn't come back empty-handed, presenting her with a massive bouquet of pink roses that screams main character energy. Xuning is stunned by the sudden romantic gesture, asking what prompted the flower run, though she secretly loves the attention. She finds a card inside with a message so cheesy it could melt a stone heart, calling her the only rose in a field of thousands. Internally, she's short-circuiting, thinking, this man's flirtation game is getting way too dangerous for my sanity. Even with little Yi watching them like a hawk, Wenli stays in character, though Xuning assumes it's all just for show to keep up appearances. To make up for the ruined dinner, Wenli suggests they head to the next location on their date. He picks the cinema, the ultimate couple goals spot, leaving Xuning to imagine what a movie night with a cold CEO would even look like. They settle into their seats, unaware that little Yi has followed them to the theater, spying from the back and praying things don't get too spicy for a PG-13 rating. Xuning asks how he handled the harasser, and Wenli casually lies that the guy just reflected on his mistakes, which sounds like total cap to her. Sensing her doubt, Wenli turns to her with a flirtatious look, asking if she was actually worried about his safety. As a romantic scene plays out on the big screen, the tension between them reaches a breaking point. Xuning tries to focus on her popcorn to hide her blushing face, wishing her heart would stop doing backflips. When Wenli calls her name, she turns around with her mouth full, looking like a confused squirrel. Instead of talking, Wenli leans in and bites the popcorn right out of her mouth, initiating a kiss that completely blindsides her. It's a full-blown cinematic moment, leaving Xuning breathless as he holds her close in the darkened theater. Little Yi is losing his mind in the back, recording the whole thing on his phone like he just caught them in 4K. He's cackling to himself, convinced he's finally witnessing the inappropriate part he was waiting for. Xuning, meanwhile, is convinced Wenli did that specifically because he knew his brother was watching. The mood is suddenly ruined when little Yi gets a high-priority text from their grandpa. He interrupts the romantic vibe to announce that the big boss of the He family wants to see both of them immediately. Later that night, Xuning brings some iced leckies to Wenli's study, feeling like she's about to face the ultimate final boss test. She asks if there's anything she needs to know before they head to the capital to meet the elders tomorrow. Wenli suddenly pulls her onto his lap, telling her the main thing she needs to work on is not dodging whenever he gets close. Xuning tries to play it cool, claiming it was just too sudden, but her face is already a deep shade of red. Wenli offers to postpone the trip if she's not ready, but Xuning knows the elders won't take kindly to a delay. Determined to prove she can handle the heat, she takes the initiative and leans in to kiss him first. Wenli is genuinely surprised for a split second before his instincts take over. He drops his pen and pulls her in deep, turning her practice kiss into a masterclass of passion. Xuning realizes his kissing style is way more intense than she expected, leaving her completely dazed. He whispers her name, his eyes full of a heat that makes her knees weak. He tells her that this is how a real husband and wife are supposed to kiss, basically setting the bar in the stratosphere. While Xuning is internally screaming about whether she can survive this relationship, Wenli calmly notes that it's quite sweet. Xuning is confused, wondering if he's talking about her or the fruit. He clarifies that the likes are great, but the smirk on his face suggests he's definitely talking about her. He gets up to go get more snacks, leaving Xuning to try and reboot her brain. As she watches him walk away, she can't help but admire his confidence. Internally, she admits she rarely gets to see him this relaxed and close. Out of everyone she's ever met, he's officially the most impossible person to look away from. They both find themselves caught in their feelings, realizing that this contract marriage is starting to feel way too real. The next day, they arrive at the He family's ancestral estate, a mansion so massive it makes regular rich people look penniless. Shuning is blown away by the scale of the place, thinking that TV dramas were actually being modest about how the 1% live. She stays close to Wenli as they enter the lion's den, feeling the weight of the family's history. Inside, the elders are already waiting, looking like they're ready to host a trial rather than a family reunion. Wenli's grandfather looks particularly sharp and intimidating, his gaze piercing through Shuning like he's scanning for malware. Wenli holds her hand firmly, introducing her as his wife to the entire room. His stepmother, Liang Jiayin, is shocked, wondering what kind of spell Shuning cast to make the normally cold Wenli so proactive. Grandpa doesn't hold back, immediately accusing Shuning of having ulterior motives and worrying about the impact on the family legacy. Shuning realizes she's being labeled a gold digger before she even had a chance to say hello. Wenli shuts that down fast, telling his grandpa that being judgmental without facts isn't the He family way. Grandpa fires back, questioning how Wenli can claim to know her so well after such a short time. The rest of the family watches the power struggle in silence, sensing the tension. Shuning stands her ground, knowing it's going to be an uphill battle to earn the approval of these elite gatekeepers. Wenli gives her a reassuring pat on the head, telling the elders that his judgment is final and they'll eventually realize they were wrong about her. He leaves them with a final warning. Soon enough, they'll be the ones feeling sorry for ever doubting his wife. Shuning is officially in the lion's den, sitting down for a high-stakes dinner with Wenli's family where every it feels like a test. The stepmother, who the internet claims is a total nightmare, is acting suspiciously sweet as she watches Shuning like a hawk. She offers Shuning a fancy dessert, claiming that all young girls have a massive sweet tooth. Internally, Shuning is suffering because the cake is so sugary it's almost nauseating, but she keeps her poker face on lock. Wenli notices her hesitation and asks if something is wrong with the food. Shuning realizes she needs to sell their loving couple act immediately, so she decides to take the initiative. She feeds a piece of the cake to Wenli, calling him honey to really drive the point home. The grandfather thinks he's finally caught her in a lie, knowing that Wenli usually despises anything sweet. But Wenli doesn't even flinch, taking the bite while staring Shuning down with pure intensity. The entire table goes silent as they wonder if marriage has actually rewired Wenli's brain. Wenli smoothly explains that his taste changed completely ever since Shuning started making him iced like he's at home. His sister-in-law jumps in to back him up, claiming Shuning's snacks are basically legendary. Shuning is blindsided by the support, her face heating up as the family starts to soften. Still, the old man isn't giving up that easily and gives Wenli a look that says this interrogation is far from over. He points out that they haven't known each other very long, implying their relationship might be a total sham. Shuning counters that love doesn't follow a schedule and can happen in a single heartbeat. When the grandfather asks point blank if she actually likes his grandson, Shuning looks Wenli in the eyes and confesses that she does. Even though Wenli knows she's partially playing a role for the elders, hearing those words makes him feel a genuine spark. The grandfather starts to wonder if he was just overthinking things and if their affection is actually the real deal. Later that night, Shuning retreats to the guest room, realizing the bed is way smaller than what she's used to. She finds a photo of Wenli's biological mother and begins to wonder about the secrets he's keeping. Suddenly, the door swings open as a family member helps a supposedly wasted Wenli into the room. Shuning rushes over help, assuring the relative that she can handle her drunk husband. The brother-in-law feels a bit guilty, thinking the grandfather went too far by forcing Wenli to drink so much just to test Shuning's patience. Shuning hauls Wenli inside, ready to play nurse for the night. But as soon as the door shuts, Wenli starts getting handsy, his gaze becoming way too focused for someone who's supposedly blacked out. He pulls her close, his breathing heavy and hot, sending Shuning's heart into a total tailspin. She tries to escape to get him some water, but Wenli pins her down, whispering her name in a way that makes her knees weak. Before she can react, he goes in for a deep kiss, catching her completely off guard. Internally, she's short-circuiting as he presses her against the wall, his lips feeling incredibly warm. Shuning finds herself melting into the kiss, the act they were putting on earlier starting to feel dangerously real. Wenli pulls back just enough to demand she stop calling him Mr. He, and use the name she's supposed to call him. Shuning thinks they don't need to put on a show since they're alone, but she's clearly flustered. Wenli warns her that the family might be eavesdropping right outside the door and dares her to go check. Trapped, she finally mutters a shaky honey, which is exactly what he wanted to hear. The look in his eyes shifts to pure adoration as his heart skips a beat. He dives back in for another intense kiss, making sure Shuning knows he's not playing around anymore. He scoops her up, completely dominating the moment as she struggles to keep her composure. Finally, he lets go and tells her he's going to shower, leaving her with a smirk and a "be good." Shuning is left dazed, realizing that for the first time in her life, she didn't hate being this close to someone. She looks at the bathroom door, feeling like electricity is still running through her body. Meanwhile, under the spray of the water, Wenli drops the act and reveals he was faking the drunkenness the whole time. He admits to himself that he's basically acting like a hooligan to get her attention, but he's not even sorry about it. He walks back into the bedroom to find Shuning already hiding under the covers. He dries his hair, watching her sleep and feeling a sense of peace he hasn't felt in years. He tells her she's sleeping too close to the edge and pulls her right into his arms. As his body presses against hers, Shuning tries to hide her nervousness, but it's a losing battle. Wenli whispers that this is only the beginning of their new life together. Shuning wonders if they should make some noise to fool the people outside, But Wenli ends up falling asleep from the long day of travel. Looking at his long eyelashes, Shuning realizes he's actually more captivating than any girl she's ever seen. Outside, the grandfather and his son are literally caught in 4K pressing their ears to the door, frustrated by the silence. The father tells the old man to stop acting like a creep before he ruins his reputation for good. The next morning, the grandfather is back in the garden, still trying to play the role of the stern patriarch. He stops his pruning when he overhears Shuning taking a heated phone call nearby. It's her trash adoptive father, calling her a mistress and demanding she return to the Zhang family to marry a loser. He demands $50 million as a price to let her go, basically treating her like a product. Shuning doesn't back down for a second, telling him he's delusional if he thinks she's paying to fix their family's bankruptcy. The guy gets even more toxic, asking if Wenli is only sleeping with her for free. Shuning declares she earns her own money and won't pay a single penny more than the child support she owes. The He family women watch from the shadows, absolutely impressed by her backbone and how she fiercely defends Wenli's honor. The grandfather realizes that Shuning's situation is way worse than he imagined, and his respect for her starts to skyrocket. Shuning hangs up and realizes she's been caught by the entire family, looking like she's seen a ghost. They invite her over for tea, trying to act like they didn't just hear her entire life story. Shuning is so rattled that she accidentally knocks over her cup, splashing tea everywhere. The tea ruins a beautiful piece of embroidery the stepmother was working on, which looks like a total disaster. Shuning is mortified, but the stepmother is surprisingly gentle, blaming herself for the tea being too hot. The grandfather mutters about her being clumsy, but Shuning is devastated about the ruined artwork. The stepmother reveals that the embroidery was actually meant to be a wedding gift for her and Wenli. The old man tells them to just throw it away, but Shuning suddenly has a brilliant idea. Internally, she vows to use her own skills to salvage the gift and prove to the He family that she's worth more than a price tag. Shuning is back at the easel, trying to mask the tea stains on her canvas with delicate floral patterns, but her hand is shaking uncontrollably as the trauma of her past starts to resurface. Internally, she felt a wave of despair, wondering if it was truly impossible to overcome her mental block. Watching from the sidelines, old Madam, he realizes the girl is fighting a serious psychological battle and decides she needs to step in. She gently guides Shuning's hand, hoping her own amateur stroke doesn't ruin the girl's artistic vision. She mentions that her own left hand has always been more flexible than her right, dropping a subtle hint. Shuning looks down at her left hand, a light bulb finally going off in her head. She decides to give it a shot, and suddenly, the brush starts moving like it's found a new life. She's completely locked in, her eyes glowing with a newfound focus. Even though the movements feel a bit clumsy at first, it gives her the strength to face those dark, hopeless memories again. Grandpa He is absolutely floored by the result, realizing Shuning is way more than just a pretty face. Shuning beams at them, feeling like she's finally found a path to redemption. To celebrate the breakthrough, she pours a fresh round of tea for the family. Just then, Wenli strolls into the garden, jokingly asking if they're bullying his wife while he was taking a nap. He greets the grandparents and Aunt Liang, looking like the ultimate protective CEO. He grabs Shuning's hand and calls her honey, sending her heart into overdrive. The old man watches them with a knowing look, seeing how deep Wenli has fallen for her. Grandma jokes that he better check her for scratches before he has a total meltdown. Wenli takes it seriously, inspecting her hand with a worried frown. Shuning reassures him, telling him that thanks to his family, she's finally figured things out. Internally, she was stunned, thinking, is he actually worried about me? Grandpa pulls Wenli aside, saying they have some business to discuss. Wenli actually pauses to look at Shuning, basically asking for permission to leave, which is a total green flag move. Shuning just gives him a shy nod, her face turning bright red. Once they're alone, Wenli lets out a yawn as Grandpa mentions that Shuning's trashy adoptive father has been calling. Wenli's expression immediately goes cold, looking like he's ready to end someone's whole career. He tells Grandpa he needs to head back immediately to teach them a lesson and get some revenge for his wife. Grandpa just calls him a brat, but he clearly approves of the protective energy. Back at the Zhang household, the parents are desperately counting their last bits of jewelry to stay afloat. Their daughter, Mingyu, is having a total meltdown, realizing the family is on the verge of bankruptcy. Instead of being worried about their future, she's actually crying about how she's going to afford her next plastic surgery. She's fuming that Shuning is out there living her best life with Wenli while they're going broke. Suddenly, the dad gets a call from Wenli and thinks their luck has finally turned. Mingyu's wheels start turning as she asks her mom what kind of women Wenli actually likes. The dad tells them they're meeting at the Deep Blue Hotel, and he's practically shaking with excitement. Mingyu gets herself ready, convinced she can seduce Wenli and steal him away from Shuning. She stares at her reflection, thinking that if a boring girl like Shuning can bag a CEO, it should be a walk in the park for her. She spots Wenli's assistant in the hallway and assumes the boss has arrived early. Internally, she smirked. Just wait, Shuning. You're about to be penniless and alone again. Inside the luxury suite, Wenli is just relaxing on his phone, looking completely unbothered. Mingyu peeks through the door, trying to act like a damsel in distress. Wenli is instantly repulsed, wondering why this girl is invading his space. She sashays in, pretending it's a total coincidence that they're in the same hotel. Wenli isn't playing her games, asking how she managed to accurately find his private lounge. She locks the door behind her, claiming there's been a misunderstanding because of her sister. She tries to shift all the blame onto her ex-fiancé, acting like she's the real victim here. Wenli just stares at her with pure ice in his eyes, hit with a blunt "so what?" Mingyu is low-key short-circuiting because he's so handsome, but she's also fuming that he's not falling for her act. She starts dropping her dress, telling him they can talk about whatever he wants. Wenli looks at her like she's a bug he wants to squash. She goes full cringe, claiming she's always admired him but was too intimidated to approach. She starts trash-talking Shuning, calling her bland and unworthy of a man like him. Wenli just leans back and laughs at her audacity, which is the ultimate power move. Mingyu thinks she's winning and offers to do literally anything he wants. Wenli finally stands up, telling her point blank that her behavior is disgusting and inappropriate. She tries to make a move, but the door is suddenly kicked open by his security team. The guards bust in, catching her in 4K with her clothes half off. They immediately realize she's trying to copy Shuning's look, but the vibe is completely off. Wenli stands by the window, ignoring her as she cries about having a momentary lapse in judgment. The guard grabs her, and she starts shrieking like a banshee, demanding to be let go. Instead, they give her a reality check by drenching her with water right there in the room. She's left shivering on the floor, threatening to call the police like she isn't the one who broke in. Wenli coldly tells his assistant to call the Zhang family to come pick up their trash. She's dragged out across the floor, screaming in total humiliation. Wenli stands over her, making it clear that he calls the shots in this room. He asks her if she really thought she was worthy of even being compared to his wife. Meanwhile, Shuning is back at the house painting when her phone starts blowing up. It's a message from Chen Zui saying Mingyu is trying to seduce Wenli and he's in danger of losing his purity. Shuning is confused by the wording, but rushes out to the hotel anyway. She arrives just in time to see the Zhang parents finding their daughter looking like a drowned rat. The dad is outraged, demanding to know why Wenli is treating his daughter this way. Wenli reminds him that they kicked Shuning out into the rain once, so he's just returning the favor. He exposes Mingyu's thirsty behavior in front of everyone, and the dad finally loses it on her. As the chaos unfolds, the dad realizes that any hope of getting money from Wenli is officially dead. The drama in the lounge hits a boiling point as the Zhang patriarch finally snaps, realizing his golden daughter just nuked their last chance at survival. He screams that Mingyu is a total embarrassment to the family name, wishing he'd never brought her back. He demands she apologize to Wenli immediately, but Mingyu is still busy playing the victim card. As the father raises his hand for another strike, a cold reality settles over the room. Mingyu cries out that she's the one being bullied, but her father is too busy having a midlife crisis over their empty bank accounts to care. Internally, he groaned, "I've spoiled this brat into a total disaster." While the Zhangs are busy imploding, Wenli is casually chilling on the sofa, while his assistant drops a tactical nuke. The police are already on their way. When the father tries to claim it's just a misunderstanding, the assistant reminds him that trying to force yourself on a CEO is usually called sexual harassment. The mother tries to play it off as a friendly chat, but Wenli isn't in a talking mood. He whips out his phone, revealing he's got the whole failed seduction recorded in 4K with audio to match. Mingyu is blindsided, realizing her flirting is about to land her a mugshot. The father starts begging for mercy, realizing his daughter is about to get a one-way ticket to a holding cell. Wenli narrows his eyes, sensing it's time to close the deal. He offers a simple trade. He'll drop the charges if the Zhangs agree to let Shuning go and dissolve the adoption. The father thinks the price is way too steep, but Wenli isn't negotiating. He coldly reminds them that a few days in detention might be just what Mingyu needs to reflect on her life choices. Mingyu is losing it, internally screaming, "I just wanted to flirt. Why am I going to jail?" The father refuses to let go of his meal ticket Shuning, even as Mingyu begs him to just agree. The mother looks on, her mind already calculating the fastest way to squeeze money out of anyone left standing. She realizes Wenli is protecting Shuning, so if they can't get his cash, they need a new target. She turns to Mingyu with a fake smile, telling her to just apologize for now. Mingyu looks at her parents and finally sees the truth. They'd sell her to the highest bidder if the price was right. She used to laugh at Shuning for being an outcast, but now she's the one being treated like trash by her own blood. It's a total reality check that leaves her trembling. Meanwhile, Shuning arrives at the hotel, looking like a total boss in a white dress. She's accompanied by Wenli's sister, who is worried about what kind of mess they're walking into. Shuning knows she needs Wenli as an ally for her revenge, so she can't let him handle the Zhangs alone. As her heels click against the floor, she prepares for a confrontation. She hears a commotion and rounds the corner, finding the drama is even worse than she expected. Mingyu has spotted her ex, Zhu Baiyu, and tries to drag him into the swamp with her. She clings to him, screaming that they've already slept together and he needs to take responsibility for her. The room goes silent as everyone processes this new level of desperation. Wenli just watches from his seat, looking like he's enjoying the most expensive soap opera ever made. His assistant is internally judging Baiyu's taste, wondering if the guy was truly that desperate to touch someone like Mingyu. Baiyu looks like he wants to evaporate on the spot, especially with his own father watching. He snaps at Mingyu to stop the lies, calling her out for trying to trap him after failing with Wenli. He mocks her, saying she claims to hate Shuning but spends every waking moment trying to copy her life. Shuning steps into the light, looking down at the chaos with pure disdain. Wenli looks up, his expression softening the second he sees his Ningning has arrived. Shuning takes in the scene, realizing this mess is exactly what the Zhangs deserve. Baiyu tries to defend his dignity, insisting he has standards and wouldn't touch Mingyu even if he was a scumbag. Mingyu keeps pushing, reminding him of a night they shared a bed at a hotel. The Zhang father foresees a new payday and starts demanding an explanation from the Zhao family. But Baiyu loses his cool, screaming that nothing happened that night. The mother scoffs, asking who would believe two people shared a bed and kept it PG. That's when Baiyu drops the ultimate self-burn to save his skin. He reveals he was injured downstairs the day before that hotel trip and couldn't have done anything even if he wanted to. A flashback shows Shuning previously delivering a savage kick to his nether regions, proving his story. Wenli's sister whispers to Shuning, asking if her former fiancé is officially a total dud now. The Zhangs stand there in stunned silence, realizing their blackmail plan just hit a very painful wall. Shuning looks at Wenli and realizes he set this whole stage up so she could watch her enemies humiliate themselves. Baiyu is still arguing with the sister, looking like he's about to have a breakdown. Mingyu is short-circuiting, realizing she's just been outed for trying to trap a guy who was physically out of commission. Baiyu looks like he wants to delete Mingyu from existence for dragging his manhood into the public eye. He continues his rant, calling Mingyu a self-degrading, shameless girl who tried to force her way into his bed while he was drunk. The mother finally tells them all to shut up, realizing the rumors are going to destroy what's left of their reputation. She turns to Shuning, begging her as a mother to ask Wenli to let Mingyu go. Wenli interrupts, reminding her that only people who've never been hurt find it so easy to demand forgiveness. He gently takes Shuning's hand, showing everyone exactly who he's protecting. The mother keeps pleading, but Shuning has had enough of the fake family act. She tells her to stop calling herself a mother, calling her manipulative guilt trips honestly sickening. Mingyu realizes she's caught in 4K and there's no way out. As she's being ushered away, she looks back in terror. The father tries one last threat, telling Shuning he'll never dissolve the adoption and he'll drag her down with them. Wenli doesn't even look at him, just giving a subtle nod to his security. A bodyguard grabs the father, pinning him to the floor as the trash is finally taken out. Wenli watches with a cold smirk, eager to see what the president plans to do from the dirt. Back in the lounge, the assistant reveals a secret. He never actually called the police. He called Madame Shuning instead, telling her that Mingyu was trying to steal Wenli's virtue. He figured Shuning would rush over if she thought her man was in trouble. And he was right. Wenli looks at his assistant, who is internally praying he isn't a dead man for the deception. Instead, Wenli tells him he's getting a massive bonus this month. The assistant is thrilled, realizing as long as he plays matchmaker for the boss, he's set for life. Wenli heads back to the room feeling pretty good about the night's work. His brother trips over himself trying to follow, asking if anyone actually tried to molest him. Wenli ignores the questions, his mind only on Shuning, who should be finished with her bath. The brother watches him go, wondering if the CEO is rushing back to prove his innocence to his lady. Inside, Shuning is drying off when Wenli enters. He pulls her into a hug, admitting he's glad she was worried enough to come find him. Shuning feels her heart racing, realizing it's way too easy to fall for a man who treats her like his entire world. She starts apologizing for the trouble, but Wenli stops her by using her full name, making her worry she actually upset him. He isn't mad, though. He just doesn't want her looking down on herself because of the Zhangs. He mentions he's seen plenty of girls like Mingyu, which sparks a bit of jealousy in Shuning. She asks if plenty of girls have thrown themselves at him, making the air in the room get a bit heavy. Wenli realizes he said the wrong thing and tries to backtrack. Shuning teases him, saying he seemed pretty experienced when they kissed before. Wenli smirks, asking if his Ningning is actually jealous. The tension breaks as he pulls her onto the bed, the atmosphere turning pure romance. But as he kisses her, he notices her lips are burning hot and her head is dizzy. He pulls back, asking if she has a fever. He realizes he shouldn't have rushed her, worried that her body is reaching its limit. Shuning is delirious, her body burning while his touch feels like ice, making her act bolder than ever. She clings to him, her brain fried from the fever as she seeks out his coolness. Wenli looks down at her, realizing she's the one who started this fire, and he's not sure he can put it out. Things were getting spicy between the CEO and his artist, but just as the tension hit its peak, the atmosphere shifted. Shuning was clearly out of it, her breathing heavy as the heat from her fever took over. Wenli was ready to risk it all, but his main priority was the girl in his arms. They shared a heated moment, but the reality of her condition finally hit home. Suddenly, Shuning winced, crying out that it hurt, which immediately killed the mood and sent Wenli into panic mode. Fast forward to the next morning, and Shuning woke up in a sterile hospital room wondering if she'd hallucinated the whole thing. Wenli was right there, explaining that her hand infection had triggered a massive fever. He looked way too calm for someone who had nearly crossed the line the night before. Then, he dropped a bombshell, pointing to a very visible mark on his neck and revealing that Shuning was the one who bit him during her fever dream. Internally, she wanted to evaporate, screaming, "I'm dead." "Zhang Shuning, what have you done?" She awkwardly took a glass of water, trying to hide her face. Wenli wasn't letting her off the hook though, asking if she planned to back out now that she was awake. She tried to play it cool, claiming she thought she was just dreaming. The awkwardness was interrupted when little Yi burst in with breakfast and a fresh change of clothes. He was all smiles until he took one look at his brother and realized the CEO was sporting some serious battle damage. Wenli tried to brush it off as nothing, but little Yi wasn't buying it. The guy was absolutely blindsided by the bright red mark on Wenli's neck. He immediately turned to Shuning, asking if she'd seen the injury. Internally, Shuning was short-circuiting, thinking, "I'm the one who bit him, how could I not know?" Little Yi couldn't believe his eyes, realizing his usually refined sister-in-law was actually a total savage in private. He was practically shaking from the second-hand embarrassment. He gave them a thumbs up, basically catching them in 4K for playing rough. Shuning felt like her brain had been fried by the fever, fully realizing she was in deep trouble with a man like He Wenli. After breakfast, the tension hadn't gone anywhere. Shuning complained about being cold, and Wenli was more than happy to provide some warm air. He leaned in close, making sure she felt every bit of his presence. Shuning wondered if he was having a reaction to her proximity, especially since they were in a literal hospital. He whispered in her ear, demanding to know who exactly was in her dream the night before. Internally, she scoffed. It was obviously Eugenius, but out loud, she lied through her teeth, claiming she didn't see the face clearly. Wenli gave her a look that said he knew she was capping, asking if she really didn't remember her wet dream. She doubled down on the denial, looking like a tomato. Wenli decided he needed to help jog her memory and went in for a kiss that definitely wasn't part of the medical plan. Just as things were getting steamy again, Shuning heard footsteps and begged him to stop before they got walked in on. He backed off but then panicked, thinking he'd hurt her injured hand. He looked like a kicked puppy, apologizing for being too rough. Shuning realized this cold CEO was becoming a completely different person around her. He tenderly touched her forehead, checking for the fever. Internally, she was questioning everything she knew about her own feelings. The moment was killed for good when Wenli's assistant showed up for a meeting. A nurse also arrived to take Shuning for a CT scan. Wenli explained he had to handle work, but left little Yi to guard her. Shuning felt a bit weird about him reporting his schedule to her like a dutiful husband. But when little Yi got a bit too close to Shuning, Wenli's overprotective CEO mode activated instantly, reminding his brother to mind his boundaries. Little Yi was stunned, realizing his brother was actually jealous of his own sibling. While walking to the scan, Shuning asked if Wenli had a lot of women chasing him. Little Yi laughed, saying that many was an understatement. The guy had actresses and socialites lined up for blocks. Shuning looked a bit down, but Little Yi quickly backtracked to avoid getting murdered by his brother later. He dropped the real tea. Despite all the pursuers, Wenli had never actually been in love until now. Shuning was officially his one and only exception. She was stunned by the revelation, finally connecting the dots on his jealous behavior. But the peaceful moment didn't last long because they bumped into a familiar face in the hallway. It was Mingyu, looking absolutely wrecked with eyes swollen like a sad frog. Mingyu tried to act tough, accusing Shuning of feeling smug. Shuning wasn't having it, telling her to stop stalking her and go find a plastic surgeon to save her face instead. After leaving the bitter sister in the dust, Shuning got the bad news about her hand. The doctor warned her that without surgery, she might never paint again, and her quality of life would tank. The only hope was a retired legendary surgeon named Dr. Lu Peiyan. Shuning felt the weight of her career slipping away as the doctor walked off. She knew finding a retired legend would be nearly impossible, but Wenli wasn't about to let her dreams die. He looked her in the eyes and asked if she trusted him. He promised to handle everything and fix her hand, leaving Shuning feeling like his words were literal magic. Later that evening, the fever flared up again, leaving Shuning panting and exhausted. The nurse suggested a wipe down and a change of clothes to help break the heat. Wenli decided to take matters into his own hands, bringing in a basin of water. He looked focused, his eyes showing a mix of concern and something more intense. Shuning woke up and realized he was about to get very personal. He blushed slightly, explaining he was just helping her change and cooling her down. Shuning thanked him, trying to keep it professional. But as the clothes came off, the temperature in the room spiked. She leaned into him, her fever-addled brain only wanting comfort. Wenli was struggling to keep his composure, internally groaning about how difficult this was to endure. Shuning reached up to touch his face, her touch sending sparks through him. She called him cool and begged to get closer, completely losing her filter. Wenli called her a little temptress, trying to cover her back up before he lost control. But the damage was done, and as they sat there in the dim light, it was clear that the contract between them was officially dead and buried. Things are heating up in the hospital, and not just because Shuning has a fever. Our CEO Wenli is busy playing nurse, and Shuning is definitely enjoying the VIP treatment. As he tenderly wipes her down, Wenli is struggling to keep his composure because his contract wife is being way too cute. Internally, he's realizing that without her usual logic to hold her back, Shuning is actually a total flirt. She gives a little shiver as he continues the care, looking like a total damsel. Wenli decides to test her, leaning in to ask if she even knows who he is. Shuning doesn't miss a beat, flashing a bright smile and calling him her husband. At this point, Wenli is basically short-circuiting from the cuteness overload. Meanwhile, over in the professional victim ward, Mingyu is busy crying a river to her parents. She's playing the "I'm not as pretty or smart as Shuning" card, and her mom is totally falling for the act. Her mom comforts her, promising that they'll find a way to help her out. Her dad, however, is just coughing nervously, remembering how Wenli almost called the cops on them. Mingyu keeps the waterworks going, claiming that she feels like an outsider in her own home. Her mom is desperate to prove her wrong, holding her close. Mingyu's real goal is to find out about the mysterious Song brother, the one with no photos in the house who never shows his face. When she asks about him, her dad's face does a complete 180 into pure rage, telling her to never ask about him again. Internally, Minju is suspicious, wondering if the dad is just a sexist who's saving all the assets for this mystery son. Shuning isn't having it and demands he speaks his piece right then and there. Minju, still bitter from her recent humiliation, starts pointing fingers and screeching about how Shuning should be grateful they're even trying to save her face. Finally, the mom leans in to spill some seriously embarrassing family tea. Fast forward a bit, and Minju is back on the prowl in the hospital halls, looking for trouble. She sees Wenli doing peasant chores like buying breakfast for Shuning, and she is absolutely fuming. She blocks Wenli and little Yi in the hallway, looking like she's ready to start a riot. She asks Wenli if he knows Shuning has a brother, acting like she's about to drop a nuclear truth bomb. She screams that this is all about Shuning's true colors. Wenli and little Yi try to walk past her with total indifference, which only makes her crazier. Minyu screams at the top of her lungs that Shuning seduced the brother she grew up with. She even tries to warn Wenli that Shuning is probably planning to seduce little Yi behind his back next. Little Yi is standing there like, wait, what did I even do to get dragged into this? Mingyu keeps yapping, telling everyone within earshot that Shuning is a scandalous homewrecker. Wenli is just staring her down with a look that says, your free trial of life has expired. Even the hospital staff are wondering why this girl is speed-running her own social suicide. Wenli is officially out of patience, his good mood completely ruined by this nonsense. He points out that her parents are literal liars who hid the truth about Shuning's injuries, so why would anyone believe her? The crowd starts whispering that the Zhongs are just a bunch of clout-chasing liars trying to throw shade. Mingyu gets desperate, demanding Shuning come out and confront her. Wenli scoffs, calling her out for being shameless enough to even show up at their door. He reminds her that he literally has the receipts, audio and video recordings of her past lies. Mingyu realizes she's been caught in 4K and starts to panic. Wenli decides he's done talking and gives the order to his guards. Slap her mouth shut. The guards don't hesitate, and Mingyu gets a high-speed reality check to the face. The sound of the slap echoes through the hallway, leaving the onlookers completely stunned. Shuning hears the chaos and wanders out of her room to see what the noise is about. She finds Mingyu sprawled on the floor, clutching her face in front of a crowd. When Shuning asks what happened, Wenli just casually says she couldn't keep her mouth shut. Internally, Shuning is like, welp, she definitely brought this on herself. Wenli immediately switches back to protective husband mode, checking Shuning's forehead and worrying about her fever. Shuning just smiles and leans into his touch, telling him she's fine. Mingyu is losing her mind on the floor, watching them be all lovey-dovey while she's literally bleeding. Suddenly, the Zhang parents burst onto the scene, looking for a fight. They threaten to call the police, but Wenli is totally unbothered, telling them to go ahead so they can clear up all their scandals at once. Realizing they're about to be exposed, the parents decide to cut their losses and drag Mingyu away, while she vows revenge. But Wenli isn't finished him yet. He stops the dad and tells him to keep his daughter on a short leash from now on. He warns the dad that if Mingyu keeps acting up, she's going to drag the entire Zhang family business into the dirt with her. The dad is forced to swallow his pride and bow to Wenli, apologizing like a scolded child. Back at the Zhang mansion, the dad is absolutely livid, nearly breaking his hand out of frustration. He tells Mingyu to stay home and stay quiet before she ruins them all. Mingyu is still obsessed with the brother scandal, thinking it's their only way to make Wenli leave Shuning. The dad points out that nobody believes a word she says anymore. Mingyu suggests bringing the brother back to confirm the story, but the dad reminds her that the brother hates them. He's more worried about the fact that the company is basically bankrupt, and they can't even pay their staff. Back at the hospital, Shuning is finally feeling better and asks Little Yi why he was fighting with Mingyu. Little Yi explains the seducing rumor, and Shuning decides to troll him, jokingly saying that she actually does like him. Little Yi goes into a full-blown panic, listing all the reasons why he's a terrible catch. Shuning can't help but laugh at how easily he got bait. She tells him to relax because she only sees him as a brother. Little Yi is relieved but thinks Shuning is starting to pick up Wenli's bully personality. Shuning heads to the bathroom while Little Yi goes to find more water. Wenli is left sitting on the couch, looking like he's plotting something. Shuning is just trying to wash her hands in peace when the door opens. It's Wenli, and he's looking extra intense. He steps up and wraps her in a sudden back hug, catching her off guard. He leans into her ear and asks the one question that's been eating at him. Do you really like Little Yi? Wenli isn't about to let another man occupy Shuning's thoughts, even if it's just her assistant. He pins her down, demanding to know where he fits into her life if everyone else is just a brother. Before she can even process the jealousy radiating off him, he shuts her up with a kiss that's more about marking territory than romance. As the world spins around her, Shuning struggles to figure out his endgame. Internally, she wondered, is this actually sincere? Or am I just a convenient distraction for him? Wenli breaks the tension with a smirk, mocking her for being so lively when teasing Little Yi, but turning into a statue the second things get real with him. He pats her head like she's a confused puppy, making her realize he's just messing with her head again. Internally, she huffed. This guy seriously needs a hobby that doesn't involve giving me a heart attack. While Wenli goes to grab her a change of clothes, Shuning sits alone in the bathroom, her mind a total mess. She stares at her phone, realizing that if she admits she liked the kiss, she might be overstepping the boundaries of their weird arrangement. But she has bigger problems than a spicy CEO. The internet is currently exploding with rumors that she seduced her own biological brother. The rumors are targeting Zhang Mingyao, the 19-year-old son of the family that adopted her. Meanwhile, at the He family residence, Wenli's father is casually sipping tea while discussing the scandal. He knows someone is feeding these rumors to the family on purpose, and he's not about to let a potential scandal ruin his son's reputation. He decides it's time to pay the sick girl a visit in Kingzhou to see what kind of drama he's actually dealing with. His associates agree that since Wenli is the heir to the He family empire, his marriage isn't just a personal matter, it's a business investment. The scene shifts to the high-rise buildings of Qingzhou where the confrontation is about to go down. Xuning and little Yi arrive at the suite, only to find the atmosphere heavy enough to crush a person. Sitting on the couch like they own the place are Wenli's father and stepmother. Little Yi looks like he wants to evaporate, apologizing to Xuning for being unable to stop the surprise visit from the big boss. Wenli's father flashes a smile that definitely doesn't reach his eyes, acting like they're just one big happy family. The stepmother, Aunt Liang, plays the role of the concerned elder, asking if Xuning is finally used to drawing with her left hand. Suddenly, Xuning's phone buzzes with a call from Wenli. Before she can even breathe, his father snatches it away. He tells Wenli to stay put, claiming he'll handle the conversation himself. On the other end of the line, Wenli is losing his mind, but his father just laughs it off, telling him there's absolutely nothing to be afraid of. Wenli is currently speeding through the city in his car, wondering if his father is about to turn into a mountain wolf and devour Xuning whole. The old man keeps trolling his son, joking that he's practically kidnapped Wenli's wife and that her life is in danger if he doesn't hurry up. Aunt Liang finally tells him to stop bullying their son, but the psychological warfare is already in full swing. She hands the phone back to Xuning, telling her to just do her best in the competition and not to feel any pressure. This fake kindness triggers a core memory for Xuning of being told that anything less than a championship win makes her a total nobody. Just as the tension hits a peak, the real villains of the story arrive, the bankrupt Zhang family and their son, Mingyao. Mingyao stands there looking like a moody K-drama lead, but he's actually the center of the incest rumor that's supposed to destroy Xuning's life. Xuning is blindsided by his appearance, realizing the entire Zhang clan has teamed up for a final desperate power move. Her adoptive father, Zhang Zouking, walks in with a fake jovial greeting, trying to play the part of a concerned parent. He tries to shake hands with Wenli's father, but the power dynamic in the room is hilariously lopsided. Zouking immediately tries to pivot, asking for a private chat to discuss the shameful behavior between Xuning and his son. Xuning isn't having it and demands he speaks his piece right then and there. Mingyu, still bitter from her recent humiliation, starts pointing fingers and screeching about how Xuning should be grateful they're even trying to save her face. Wenli's father looks at Mingyu like she's a bug he's about to squash, wondering who this loudmouth brat even is. Zouking doubles down on the lies, claiming Xuning is the one who stripped off her clothes to seduce his son. Little Yi is absolutely floored by the audacity, unable to believe people could be this disgusting. Zouking puts on a masterclass in gaslighting, acting like he's only speaking up for the sake of the He family's honor. He spins a sob story about how they adopted Xuning from an orphanage because they couldn't have children. He claims that right after the adoption, his wife miraculously got pregnant with Mingyao, leading to the two growing up as siblings. He shows photos of them as kids, painting a picture of a happy home that never actually existed. Then comes the dagger. He claims Xuning secretly seduced Mingyao, causing his grades to tank and turning him against his own parents. Xuning remembers the reality: she was the one who rejected Mingyao's obsessive feelings and told him she only ever saw him as a brother. She calls out Mingyu for being the mastermind behind the framing, but Mingyu just hides behind her victim status. When Xuning mentions a second slap, Mingyu nearly has a short circuit from pure terror. The Zhang mother jumps in to play the vicious and cruel card against Xuning, acting shocked that her daughter could be so cold. She even puts on a performance of a heartbroken mother who can't believe Xuning's disrespect. Xuning scoffs at the act, realizing they're just trying to crush her in front of Wenli's family to secure a payout. Zouking keeps digging the grave, claiming Xuning's motives were impure from the start. Aunt Liang, however, isn't buying the story, asking why they sent their biological son abroad instead of just kicking out the seducer. The room goes quiet as Wenli's father waits for Mingyao to confirm the story. The Zhang parents pressure their son to lie, telling him to just tell the truth and save the family. Mingyu whispers in his ear, practically drooling at the thought of Xuning finally being discarded by the He family. Mingyao looks up, and for a second, Xuning fears the worst. Internally, she panicked. There's no evidence. If he chooses his family's survival over me, I'm finished. Little Yi watches closely, noticing that Mingyao still looks at Xuning with a gaze that's definitely not brotherly. He realizes that Wenli might have just gained a much more dangerous love rival than he expected. But then, Mingyao drops a nuke on his parents' plan. He admits that Xuning never seduced him, he was the one who selfishly fell for her, and she's the best person he's ever known. Wenli's father sips his tea, watching the Zhang family's plan go up in flames in real time. The Zhangs are caught in 4K, their faces twisting in pure rage as their golden son betrays them. Mingyao has a flashback to when his father slapped him for trying to defend Xuning in the past. He admits he was too weak back then and let them exile him just to keep Xuning safe from their malice. He turns to Xuning and promises that he's not a weak little boy anymore, he's here to protect her for real this time. Before his parents can even scream, Mingyao pulls out a stack of documents. He reveals that he's already notarized the transfer of several Zhang family properties into his own name. His mother starts screeching that those are the last of the family's assets, But Mingyao doesn't care about their bankruptcy. He gives his father a final ultimatum. He will keep the assets, but only if they agree to legally terminate their adoptive relationship with Xuning and finally give her the freedom she deserves. The Zhang family is officially spiraling as Xiaoqing loses his mind over Mingyao's demand to terminate Xuning's adoption. Minyu tries to play the blood is thicker than water card, but Mingyao isn't buying it, coldly stating that DNA doesn't make a family. He reminds them that while they were busy being toxic, Xuning was the only one actually there for him. Mom tries to pull a pro-gamer move by faking a dizzy spell, hoping for some sympathy points. She starts a classic guilt trip about how hard her pregnancy was, but Mingyao has had enough of being their golden child trophy. He snaps, calling out the fact that he was treated like a study machine rather than a human being. Internally, he's screaming about never asking to be born, as he declares that while he's stuck with their blood, Xuning deserves to be free. Mom is absolutely losing it, flashing back to her infertility struggles and how she supposedly poured her soul into raising him. In a fit of absolute Mother of the Year energy, she lunges at Xuning with a teapot. The ceramic shatters across the floor in a chaotic mess. The room goes dead silent as everyone stares at the wreckage of her sanity. Looking like a straight-up villain, Mom is crawling on the floor, completely unhinged. She lunges again, screaming for Xuning to die, but a hand suddenly intercepts her. Xuning is caught in 4K, looking terrified as the attack is blocked. It turns out Aunt Liang is the MVP today, stepping in to protect her future daughter-in-law. Aunt Liang isn't playing around, pinning the crazy woman down while questioning if she has any respect left for the He family. She makes it clear that the Zhangs have no business touching Xuning ever again. The He brothers aren't far behind, with Zichen jumping in to play bodyguard and making sure Xuning is okay. Xuning realizes that these strangers are treating her better than the people who raised her ever did. Mom is still barking, claiming Xuning is just a dog who will never be fit for the spotlight. Aunt Liang just serves her a cold plate of shut up, telling her to go reflect on her parenting fails. Finally, the CEO himself, He Wenli, makes his grand entrance looking like he just stepped off a runway. He's relieved Xuning is safe, but Xuning is internally cringing about all the trouble she's causing the He family. Mingyao sizes up the competition, realizing this is the man who actually stole Xuning's heart. Wenli doesn't hold back, telling Mingyu that her reputation is trash because of her own actions. He gives the Zhangs a look that could melt steel, basically saying their son only turned out okay because he didn't follow their lead. He labels the entire family as rotten to the core. Then, he drops the ultimate bombshell. He knows they only adopted Xuning because a fortune teller said she was a lucky charm to help them conceive a son. They were told to treat her well for the luck to stick, and since they failed, their luck is officially out. Xuning is blindsided by the truth while Wenli predicts that soon even their biological daughter will ditch them. Mom tries to deny it, but she's clearly shook. Wenli just gives a smug wait-and-see look. The stress is too much for Xiaoqing, who ends up having a literal heart attack right then and there. Cut to the hospital, where the drama finally takes a breather. Wenli plays the generous boyfriend, telling Xuning to go have a private chat with Mingyao while his parents go home. He watches them walk away, and despite his calm exterior, he's definitely fuming. His dad even teases him about being a noisy, jealous mess. Wenli tells him to stop stirring the pot, but the jealousy is real. At a nearby cafe, Mingyao finally spills his guts, confessing he wanted to elope with Xuning years ago. Xuning is short-circuiting, realizing he wasn't just being a protective brother. Internally, she's screaming, "This is insane," as the atmosphere gets heavy. She tries to set boundaries, telling him that because he's her brother, it can never happen. Mingyao gets salty, questioning if Wenli can even offer her a real future or if she's just a plaything. We see a flashback of Mingyao's bleak childhood, where Xuning was his only ray of light. He realizes he never came back because he knew she didn't see him romantically. Meanwhile, Wenli is literally at the next table, eavesdropping on the whole thing like a total boss. Xuning tries to be grateful for his help, but Mingyao demands to know if she actually likes Wenli. Wenli is staring daggers from the background, waiting for her answer. Mingyao sneers, assuming their relationship is just a business transaction. Wenli is ready to throw hands, but Xuning shuts him down, softly admitting that it's not a transaction. She says the words, "I like him." Wenli is stunned into silence, realizing Xuning finally admitted her feelings. Mingyao tries to cope, acting like Wenli is just an old, rich guy with no personality. Xuning defends her man, calling him gentle and considerate, which makes Mingyao nearly choke. Mingyao decides to pull one last move to test Wenli's patience. He leans in super close to Xuning, making it look suspicious. Zichen is in the background, fueling the fire by asking Wenli if he's scared of a divorce. Wenli's expression is pure death flag energy. Zichen keeps poking the bear, warning that Xuning might actually run away. Wenli finally snaps and marches over to their table. Xuning is caught off guard as the CEO looms over her. She asks what he's doing there, but he's already in claim-staking mode. He grabs her chin, making it clear to everyone in the room who she belongs to. Mingyao watches, satisfied that he finally forced the CEO to show his true colors. Just then, Mingyao gets a call from the hospital. He picks up, looking serious. He tells Xuning he has to go check on their father. As he walks away, he leaves the two of them to settle their own spicy drama. While the rest of the world is sleeping, Xuning is in the kitchen putting in work on some late-night snacks. But CEO Wenli isn't about to let her cook in peace, sliding in for a back hug because he's worried his girl didn't eat enough. Xuning starts overthinking, wondering if she needs to clarify that her feelings for Mingyao are strictly familial, But Wenli isn't buying the "he's just a kid" excuse, reminding her that the guy is a grown man. Sensing the tension, she asks him point blank if he's actually jealous. Wenli doesn't even try to play it cool and admits he's definitely jealous, leaving Shuning wondering if he's for real or just teasing her. She tries to dodge the intensity by focusing on her vegetable chopping, but Wenli isn't having it and demands she look him in the eye. He drops the knife and lifts her chin, turning the kitchen into a romance novel set. Shuning tries to maintain some boundaries, whispering that his parents are still in the house. Wenli basically says, "So what?" and goes in for a kiss, realizing that Shuning is getting a lot bolder lately. He questions why she can't look at him now when she was so fearless while confronting Mingyao earlier. That's when it clicks for Shuning he was lurking at the cafe and caught the whole conversation in 4K. They share a deep, cinematic kiss right there by the stove. Wenli praises her for standing her ground today, finally feeling like they're on the same page. Internally, she marveled. He really does trust me more than anyone else ever has. She promises to keep her distance from the Zhang family drama from now on. However, she's curious about his stalking habits and asks exactly when he started following her. She realizes he's been her secret bodyguard since the banquet, watching her back from the shadows. Wenli tries to play it off, blaming his assistant Little Yi for being the one who insisted on tagging along to prevent trouble. Suddenly, Wenli's father walks in, catching the couple in their late vibes. Shuning awkwardly excuses herself to go make drinks for everyone, leaving the men to talk shop. The father teases Wenli, telling him to stop staring like a statue at his wife's back. They pivot to the Zhang family, noting that the old master is way too sharp to be fooled by their desperate schemes. Wenli smirks, calling the Zhang sloppy and full of flaws. His father wonders where his son learned to be such a doting husband, as Wenli prioritizes his wife over everything. The old man is left standing there with his tea, stunned by his son's total transformation. Meanwhile, the Zhang household is in total meltdown as Mingyao's sister screams at him for betraying his own parents for Shuning. Mingyao gives her a look that could freeze hell over, asking if she's quite finished. He pins her with a terrifying threat, telling her that if she says one more bad thing about Shuning, he'll literally end her. The sister is absolutely terrified, realizing her brother has officially become a madman. Mingyao then confronts his parents, demanding they sign the papers to set Shuning free while their company is still barely breathing. The next day, the call finally comes through, and Mingyao tells Shuning to bring her ID to legally terminate the adoption. Shuning feels like a weight has been lifted, realizing her 20-year nightmare is finally over. To celebrate her new life, Aunt Liang takes her on a massive shopping spree, insisting she try on everything in the store. Aunt Liang is determined to spoil her, remembering how the heartless Zhangs kicked her out with nothing but the clothes on her back. Shuning is moved to tears, having never experienced this kind of unconditional motherly love before. Wenli eventually shows up at the boutique to check on his ladies. Aunt Liang pushes Shuning to show off her latest look to her husband. When Shuning steps out in a stunning, elegant white gown, the room goes silent. Wenli visibly gulps, looking at her like he wants to devour her right then and there. While her sister-in-law gushes about how ethereal she looks, Shuning is busy blushing under Wenli's intense gaze. Feeling the heat, she quickly heads upstairs to change and pack her things. But Wenli follows her right into the room, not letting her escape that easily. He leans against the doorframe, looking like a total snack himself. He pulls her into his arms, admitting that quitting certain habits, meaning her, is proving to be impossible. He starts nibbling on her, making Shuning wonder if this even counts as just holding her. Internally, Wenli was losing it, thinking, does she have any idea how seductive she is right now? He seals the deal with a passionate kiss that leaves them both breathless. Between kisses, Wenli remembers some advice about making things official so no one else can snatch her away. He tells her they need to find time to actually register their marriage legally. He goes even further, asking for her thoughts on having a real, grand wedding. Shuning is stunned because a real wedding was something she never even dared to dream about during their contract phase. Finally, the day of legal freedom arrives at the government office. The adoption is officially dissolved, and Shuning is finally her own person. Her adoptive mother tries to guilt-trip her one last time, demanding she tell Wenli to stop crushing their family business. Shuning gives her the cold shoulder, stating she doesn't interfere in Wenli's professional life. The mother loses it, accusing Shuning of being high and mighty now that she's ruined them. As Shuning walks away without looking back, the father has to physically restrain the mother from making a scene, marking the official end of the Zhang family's hold on her. Scena propuszczona is za szybki generacji.